President Bongbong Marcos criticizes China anew for its illegal activities in the South China Sea at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit and related summits in Malaysia. He also uses the summits as a platform to inform leaders of the harassment faced by Filipinos in the region. During his intervention at the Asean-US Summit on Sunday, October 26, Marcos expresses deep concern over the dangerous maneuvers and coercive actions that interfere with legitimate Philippine activities in the West Philippine Sea. A copy of Marcos's intervention speech was provided to reporters only on Monday, October 27. Throughout his intervention speech, Marcos does not identify a specific country. However, a source confirms that the president was referring to China. The source refused to be identified for lack of authority to discuss issues related to the South China Sea. Only China Coast Guard and Chinese maritime militia vessels have engaged in aggressive maneuvers in the West Philippine Sea. China's actions have resulted in injuries among personnel of the Philippine Coast Guard and the military. It also resulted in the loss of income for Filipinos who are unable to conduct fishing activities in their traditional fishing grounds. Marcos tells ASEAN leaders and U.S. President Donald Trump that these actions violate international law, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. For the first time, Marcos himself denounces China's move to establish the so-called nature reserve status over Scarborough Shoal last month. In September, Manila filed a diplomatic protest against Beijing's illegitimate and unlawful action. These incidents notwithstanding, Marcos says the Philippines will continue to remain firm in its commitment to the full implementation of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea. According to the president, the Philippines also wants parties to achieve productive negotiations toward a code of conduct that is effective, substantive, and consistent with international law, particularly UNCLOS. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration upheld the Philippines' sovereign rights to fish and exploit resources within its exclusive economic zone. The International Tribunal rejected China's sweeping claims over practically the entire South China Sea. The Philippine military seizes bottles of suspected cyanide as it escorted Chinese boats out of Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. In a statement, the Armed Forces of the Philippines says the Western Command stopped Chinese fishing boats engaged in illegal fishing activities on October 24. The AFP says its personnel escorted unauthorized fishing boats out of the area and confiscated bottles containing suspected cyanide chemicals reportedly used for destructive fishing. According to the AFP, this move prevented further harm to coral reefs and marine life. Ayungin Shoal has become one of the flashpoints of tension between Manila and Beijing. The Philippines naval outpost BRP Sierra Madre has been aground in an elevated part of the shoal since 1999. The June 17, 2024 rotation and resupply mission for BRP Sierra Madre saw the most violent confrontation by Manila and Beijing, which led to serious injury of a Philippine Navy personnel. Manila and Beijing came up with a provisional understanding on the resupply of BRP Sierra Madre at the 10th Bilateral Consultation Mechanism on the South China Sea. Since the bilateral consultation mechanism, no untoward incident has occurred in the succeeding resupply missions in BRP Sierra Madre. However, the AFP patrol on August 20 saw another episode of Chinese aggression with the presence of a Chinese boat mounted with armaments and a China Coast Guard ship conducting a water cannon exhibition. During that time, a Chinese vessel was also seen deploying fishnets along the southeast approach of the shoal, while a Chinese unmanned aerial vehicle was also seen above the area. Beijing claims sovereignty over almost the entire South China Sea, but the landmark 2016 international ruling effectively dismissed this in favor of Manila's sovereign rights in the West Philippine Sea. The Senate Subpanel on Finance is giving the Department of Public Works and Highways until October 31 to verify whether the agency's 2026 budget contains repeating line items or projects from the 2025 budget. During the hearing on Monday, October 27, Senate Finance Committee Chair Wing Gatchalian asks Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon if the agency had detected any duplicate items in the 2026 budget. According to Dizon, given the time provided by the committee, the DPWH was able to review almost 800 out of the 900 projects that were earlier flagged as potential duplicates.
No, there were a total of 946 projects that were identified, amounting to 14.455 billion pesos. No, we are here to report to the committee that as of yesterday, we were able to provide validation and justification of 798 out of the 946 projects, roughly amounting to 66 billion pesos out of the 14.455 billion pesos.
The DPWH chief says the projects reviewed were continuation projects that required additional funding for completion.
Marami dito napansin natin, Mr. Chairman, mga continuation of projects that have already been funded in past budgets, no? Now, obviously, was not sufficient, no, to complete the project. So these are continuations of that. But now, very clearly, in the pictures and in the geotag, and also next slide, the straight line diagrams as seen here.
He adds that the DPWH was unable to validate all 900 projects, but will leave it to the committee's discretion to remove any unverified items if necessary.
But if you give us enough time, more time, we will try our best to validate and justify and provide the details similar to what we have provided.
Gatchalian says the committee can allow the DPWH more time to finish its verification, provided the agency can confirm that none of the validated projects are repeated items. Dizon assures the panel that none of the verified projects were duplicates, but says he's unable to make the same assurance for the remaining projects.
Sabihin, itong initial review nyo, kung wala naman kayo na-detect na totoong repeated, meaning in good faith, no? These are all continuation, then we can give you until Friday to complete.
Thank you.
Kasi by Wednesday, mag-umpisa na yung aming technical working group. So, we'll schedule lang DPWH towards the end para mabigyan namin kayo ng time kung wala kayong nakitang bad faith.
Dizon thanks Gatchalian for granting the extension, saying he will instruct DPWH implementing units to continue the validation process. While he cannot confirm yet whether the remaining projects contain additional red flags, Dizon assures the subpanel that the DPWH will formally notify them if any repeating line items are found. Some congressmen are now reporting either double entries or unknown projects in their own districts in the proposed 2026 budget that they approved in the House of Representatives. In a letter, Batangas Representative King Colyantes sought the assistance of Senate Committee on Finance Chair Rin Gatchalian. A copy of his letter was flashed on the screen during the Senate Subcommittee panel's continuation of its hearing on the proposed budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways for 2026. Colyantes notes in his letter to Gatchalian that double entries reflected in the House General Appropriations Bill for the 3rd District of Batangas. According to Colyantes, upon review, his office identified several project entries that appear to be duplicates due to variations in naming or descriptions. Colyantes identifies duplicate projects worth 5 million pesos each in barangays Santa Maria, Don Juan, and San Jose in Santo Tomas City. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon informs the committee that he also received a similar letter.
Mr. Chairman, we have also received the same letter from Congressman Colyantes from Batangas. We have also received a similar letter from Congressman Biron of Iloilo, also saying na hindi niya alam yung proyektong yan, so pwedeng pakitanggal na lang.
Gatchalian says this only showed that even congressmen themselves on the ground are not aware of these duplicate projects. According to the senator, it is also possible that the project and funding proposals were downloaded from the central office without the knowledge of district congressmen. Meanwhile, Gatchalian says Muntinlupa Mayor Rufi Biazon also reached out to his office to explain the two allocations for a multi-purpose building in Barangay Putatan. Biazon said one was for the construction of the building amounting to 10 million pesos and another for rehabilitation, which costs 30.3 million pesos. Because the entries in the budget book were generic, Gatchalian says lawmakers might not know that the 30.3 million peso funding already covered 5 projects.
He explained to us that this barangay, itong barangay Putulan, malaki ito. In fact, yung 30.3 million, 5 project pala ito in different areas. These are legitimate projects. Balik. These are legitimate projects. No? Hindi siya ghost project. Meron talaga siyang mga lugar. May maraming ganitong project na pag ganitong malalaking barangay, I suggest i-granular pa natin, identify yung kalsada. Diba? I-specify natin yung kalsada para hindi naman hindi naman ma-accuse yung local government or yung congressman na itong project na ito ay hindi tama.
The Senate is currently discussing at the committee level the proposed 6.793 trillion peso national budget for 2026. The House approved this budget on October 13.